been a bit since I've been this uncomfortable while watching a film. Not Okay is now available on Hulu. Now, I watched it the other night with my family, but is it worth it? An ambitious young woman finds followers and fame when she poses as the survivor of a deadly attack, but she soon learns that online notoriety comes with a terrible price. So right off the bat, before the film actually even starts, there's a warning on the screen that's talking about flashing lights and themes of trauma that could cause issues. And then it gives a warning that I've never seen. It lists an unlikable female protagonist. Zoey Deutch plays Danny, a fame-obsessed young woman working at an online magazine. Now, she's surrounded by all types of influencers and people that she holds in high standing. But when we meet her, she's kind of a mess. And she doesn't listen, and she's constantly pushing her agenda and what she wants rather than hearing those around her. Now, we learn almost right from the start that we don't like her, just as the warning at the start tells us. One day, Danny gets the idea that she's going to fake a trip to Paris, where she's supposedly attending a riding retreat. Now, after faking a whole bunch of Instas and just pretending that she's there, she wakes up to find that Paris has been attacked, which forces her then to make a decision. She could come clean about her lies, she could just delete her social posts because it's not like that she was that popular anyway, or the worst option imaginable is to choose to continue in the lie and exploit it however she can. So guess what she chooses? Now, Deutch creates such a horrendous character. I mean, I was wishing so many nasty things out loud that I wanted to happen to her. And I was squirming in my seat while watching because it's just so wildly uncomfortable at how this pile of trash behaves. And to make matters worse, she gets involved with a support group. Now, I'm not going to detail out what happens within that, but as much as I disliked the character before this, after, she is so vile in her selfishness that it was really difficult to continue to watch her on screen. Now, if you saw or know of Dear Evan Hansen, this has a small notion of that, where a lie is perpetuated until all the crap just rains down from the sky and drowns the liar. But this one is much worse, at least in the lies. This movie also had some similar feelings of dread as were in Uncut Gems. Now, I don't want you to get me wrong. I mean, I'm not comparing the two movies just because Uncut Gems, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. But there was this sense of pressure and doom that was always looming. And Not Okay, it captures that in ways. Now, this is an hour and 40 minutes long. And while most of it did move quickly, at about the halfway point, I was shocked to see that we were only halfway through. Now, I think because Danny is such an oppressive force within the narrative, meaning that she makes just everything so uncomfortable. Now, the time we spent with her seemed like it had been going on for far longer than it actually had, because she's such an emotionally and psychologically draining character. But there was an element to the storytelling that kept making me think that the narrative was attempting to humanize Danny, to show us the guilt that she's experiencing. Now, she sees images as she delves farther and farther into her lies, almost like she's haunted by what she's doing, leading me to then question if we're going to see growth or maybe learning from her. Now, in addition to Zoey Deutch, we've got Dylan O'Brien and Mia Isaac as co-stars. Now, O'Brien is a drugged-out pothead that is so over the top in his portrayal. I mean, he's got this persona that he embraces. It's just laughable and cringy. And he's also a disgusting human being, but not nearly to the level of Danny. I had visceral reactions to her character. But with O'Brien's Colin, I just saw him as an idiot, and a fairly harmless one. I mean, he's exactly what comes to mind when I think influencer. He's always on and is constantly chasing the likes and the approval of his followers. Now, while I didn't really laugh much in this movie, there was one line that involves Colin that did make me laugh out loud. It was quick and it was a subtle line, but delivered with such amazing timing and contempt that I couldn't help but laugh. And that's the thing with this movie. It's satire. Danny is there to show us everything wrong with chasing the lie, with chasing the fake fame that comes with her Insta persona. But then we meet Mia Isaac's character, Rowan. She is a real person in the sea of fakes, and she brings a fiery passion that's soul-bearing and raw, and I absolutely loved her performance. She's vulnerable, but awesomely tough, and then she gets so many different moments to shine throughout the movie. She's a social advocate speaking out against a very real and relevant issue. And while we get to hear small segments of her talks, there's one that comes at the very end that is piercing and it's filled with truth. And I really liked Rowan as the antithesis to Danny, where Danny attempts to be relevant and really just co-ops any opportunity that she can to bolster her image. Rowan is the real deal. She has a story and a message and also the devotion to see it through. Their dynamic is also great to watch because we know that while Danny is putting on a good show, because it's not who she really is, there could come a time where she crashes and burns. And who's she going to take out as collateral damage? And then Rowan is trusting and empathetic, and probably just a bit too nice also. But she allows herself to become vulnerable with Danny, and that leads to some very powerful and emotional sequences. Now, through all of the satire of the film, some of this, especially through the first half, might lack some of the directness in the message, but the end breaks that all down and cuts right to the heart of the cautionary tale. And I'm glad that this story has a point to it, other than just to watch a terrible person leave a swath of emotional devastation behind her. But even though there is a point, I'm not sure how satisfying the ending is. I mean, there is a resolution, and I think it's very fitting, but I did find it a bit frustrating too. That doesn't mean it's bad, it's just not necessarily the ending that I was hoping for. And maybe that's the best thing. So overall, Not Okay is an intriguing and wildly uncomfortable story that is led awesomely by Zoey Deutch. The ability to create a persona that we instantly hate and continue to wish bad things upon, all while being absolutely captivated at the spectacle before us, is amazing. Dylan O'Brien is great in a satirical and supportive role, but he's certainly outshined by Mia Isaac, who brings a great deal of humanity and compassion to a story that's inundated with human dumpster fires. The storytelling is engaging, but at times it feels longer than it is just because Danny is such an exhausting character to endure. I love the overall satire within the story and appreciate the pointedness it attacks with. And while the ending may not be the one you hope for or expect, it is very fitting and in line with the message. There's sex, no nudity, a ton of profanity, and some violence. I give Not Okay 4 out of 5 couches. What's a good satire you can recommend? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.